What's up, guys? This is episode 18. Yeah, let me know when you join on IG, and then we'll get you going there. I should talk a little bit about. I'm going to talk about China, man. We got to talk about Trump today too.
Yeah, so you want to start? Let's make it a pattern where we start with politics, we go into other news, and then go from there.
Cool, sounds good. All right, so you want to start with politics first?
Oh yeah,
All right, let's talk about Trump. Okay, so a rundown today. I guess I'll do the rundown. Um, we're having double audio there.
no, it
Yes.
should be done now. I just lowered my phone.
Oh, we got to lower mine now. There we go. Now mine's lowered too. Perfect. Okay, cool.
Perfect.
So we'll cover Trump, we'll cover China, and then we'll cover, I
Your
guess,
the car wash
oh yeah, we'll cover car wash,
update with that, and then
and
also the IG promo stuff that you were having issues with.
oh
Your
yeah,
reach
that,
has
and
gone
then
down.
one of us got sued. We're going through it, so I guess we'll figure out
Yeah.
which one it was, and we'll talk a little bit about that at the end.
Oh yeah.
So the whole Trump thing, man. So it's very interesting. I have no idea why Nikki Haley is continuing her campaign. If you follow, what's going on with everything, a lot of people are assuming that she's just trying to push this far enough that, when it gets to Trump's trials, that he gets indicted and then he can't run or whatever's going to happen, and then who's left is just her, right? And she has the delegates, or she has the points because everybody else dropped out. I think this is a lose lose for her all the way around. I think she's about to get embarrassed in her home state, and I have no idea why she would continue to run. And also, it just hurts the Republican Party more. Why? Because that money that's going to her, it should be going to Trump's war chest to try to get ahead of Biden. But then again, the whole Biden thing is everyone thinks he's going to be announcing to drop out soon. I don't know if he is. He needs to do it very, very soon. They're saying Michelle Obama has been thrown out there, but it's like you got 10 months until the election. So how fast are they going to be able to pull this switcheroo? To me, I feel like this is such a weird year, and I don't know what's going to happen next in the sense of like if he's going to, or if she is going to drop after this one. I figure if she gets embarrassed in her home state, which she's polling in single digits, she probably would quit. But the phenomenon that's going on is everybody is switching over from the Democratic Party to become Republican to vote against Trump. So it's I don't know. It's so insane to me. But I don't know. I guess we're gonna have to wait and see how this thing shakes out. You got any thoughts on it?
Yeah. Yeah, I was surprised at the amount of votes she got in New Hampshire. 139,000 as compared to Trump at 174. I think that's pretty
Yeah.
close. He's at 12, she's at 9. I mean, of course, Trump's leading, but I genuinely believe that after this one, she should drop out.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy. I wonder where those votes are. I wonder if how many of those votes are Democrats that are switching over and voting, or how many are
Yeah,
people that just are never Trumpers. I have no idea. But it's it feels weird, man, because also the whole situation that's going on in Texas right now too,
yeah,
where the Biden administration has blocked, you know, um, Texas from putting up barbed wire, but now Governor Abbott's like, "This is Texas, baby. We're going to defend ours." So he's defining it or defying it. So
yeah,
um, but obviously the markets haven't reacted that much to it. They're kind of just like they still think the market is viewing this as just another day in the neighborhood, right? And to me as a citizen, I don't know. Maybe I'm just looking at this like this seems like it's a lot of stuff that's just bubbling, 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 and I hope it does just kind of blow over. I don't want to see
mm,
anything bad happen in any way, shape, or form, but it's just not setting up for anything positive to happen. So it makes
agreed.
me feel like to me, I'm on edge about it because I'm like, what next trick is coming out? I don't know why we can't just stick to, just you know, come out there, uh, give us what you want to do with the country. Let us decide. Why is all these other things coming in to factor into it? Why does it matter if you believe in democracy that much, right? If you're on the Democratic side and you're like, no, we need to vote, we need to do whatever, then why are you stopping somebody or trying your hardest to stop somebody from letting the people decide? Because if you were that validated in what you're thinking and what you're believing, then you're gonna win out. You're gonna win out in a landslide. You would only do this if you're intimidated, you're scared, and you know you're full of shit. That's
That's
what
the
I think.
case. I think that is the case, and that's why what you were saying last week, where they might just go and say, we can't even debate with Trump. We cannot stand this guy. There's no way we're talking to him. We're not going to do this. And that's the way I feel like that's where we're headed. And I don't, and also on the Democratic side, I don't think Biden's going to give up.
I don't think so either, bro. I don't know why. It's so hard because you got to think about this. Very few times in history has somebody actually given up power.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the last times I could think of, like right off the top of my head, it was our founding father. It was George Washington. You know, after 2 terms, he was like, "Yeah, this is good enough. I don't want to be like the old," because essentially it was going to be like, "Oh, George Washington is just going to be our president." For when he stepped back and he's like, "This is not what it's supposed to be." He gave power up. Very few times in history when someone gets a piece of that power, rarely do they give it up. And you know, I feel like, and it's just the irony, man. I hate making the same point over and over again, because I made the point already, where it's just like, if you're really that much for freedom, then let us decide. You know, like let us
Yeah.
decide who we're going to vote for. You know, we don't need you to protect us or whatever. We're smart enough to make our own decisions. You know, and yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how South Carolina plays out, and to see how much of these Trump court cases really, you know, either hamper him or roadblock him or make a difference. I think they just help him. I think it gets people fired up, and they say, we see the bullshit, and
Yeah.
we're sticking with our guy, you know, more than ever, you know, because if they could do that to him, what could they do to you? And
100%.
you know, um, all right, I want to talk a little bit about China. We did a little research
Let's do
here.
it.
All right, cool. Oh, one last political thing. Isn't it funny? Nancy Pelosi just made double her government salary. Oh shit, groovy. She made double her government salary off the Nvidia stock options she bought, and just came out recently that Nvidia is partnering with the United States government to come up with AI.
Wow.
Obviously, she fucking knew that.
Oh,
You know what I
of
mean?
course, no shit. Dude, I wouldn't be surprised if within the next decade they made like a documentary about this. And then we'll watch it on Netflix. Like, our corrupt leader made billions of dollars or whatever that may be.
She's
I think she's gonna probably go down as like the best trader in the world.
Dude, she is literally the best trader in the world. I mean, she's already made 26% return on that. I mean, that's to make 26% return on anything is new. And remember, this is, you know, as you're paying with larger sums of capital, it's harder to return double digits like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
If you're playing with millions of dollars, it's very hard to return 20%, 30%. It's usually, you know, when you're playing with like that much money, you'll be lucky to get 8 or 10%, and you're like, yeah, you know, it's insane to me. And she's not the only one. You know, Unusual Wills tracks this. Quantum Charts, or what, I think that's another account that tracks this. It's just, you know, we're letting it happen right in front of our eyes. We're seeing the corruption in front of our eyes, and everyone's just kind of like, okay, like, I guess we're all cool with it. I don't know.
but what can we do about it? Well, I'm
Nothing.
not cool with it, but what can I do about it? There you go. Might as well be cool with it.
That's I put a poll up earlier this week, and I was trolling out, and then everybody's like, how could you be cool with this? I'm like, what are we supposed to do until somebody
Nothing.
actually, you know, steps
Yeah.
up and says, hey, vote for me, I'll get rid of it. You
But
know,
everybody that's making those bills and everybody that's making those policies involved in this, so they would never make a policy against themselves.
of course, it's like you wouldn't want to,
Yeah.
you know, like I said, goes back to the power thing. Very rarely when people have power, do they ever want to give it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's you know, that's why you got these guys that become lifelong politicians. They're not doing it because they want to help you. They're doing it because they want to help their pockets. You know.
Yeah. It was there's a saying in Punjabi that goes, not all politicians are corrupt. Only corrupt people become politicians.
There, that's a beautiful saying. It's the truth, right?
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
so China has been going through a crazy up and down in their markets, and so I guess let me just do a little bit of a backstory, and then you started talking very well about Alibaba, because I want to talk about Baba, because
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a buy or not. You know, oh, it says my guest mic is echoing. Oh, it's probably just because I have him speaking here and then he's double speaking there. They could double hear.
I
Sorry.
just put my IG on mute. You should be good.
Oh, okay, cool. Hopefully this has the echoing stopped. Can anyone let us know? I guess we can wait a second.
I don't
Oh,
know if they could hear me now though, because my IG, my mic's muted it there.
no, it's all right. They'll have to watch the rest of the podcast then. Oh, nice. He says it's on. Okay.
For sure.
So um, Li Chang, who is pretty much like the second in command, or very high up in the Chinese Communist Party, went out to Davos this a week ago. Davos was a week ago, and he tried to make some promises about the Chinese economy. And the very next day, the market in China puked, and the market drops. And there's a bunch of reasons for this. Obviously the property crisis that's going on. I'll touch on that very little. If you want to know more about it, I've made videos. You could go to my channel on YouTube and go down, and you'll see the whole Evergrande crisis and the property crisis. Okay, so to highlight this, what's been going on is at a certain point in time, you need your citizen base to become consumers. And what China did is they pumped their housing market, kind of like we did in 06, 08, low lending, let people invest like crazy. And the idea was you get a house. Once you get a house, what do? You buy a bed, you buy a sofa, you buy a TV, you buy microwaves, you buy fridges. All of a sudden, you start becoming a consumer base. Now, economy in China starts growing. What actually ended up happening was a bunch of fraud happened, and a lot of these investments are blowing up in people's faces. It's putting stress on the Chinese, economy, and it's kind of ironic because they have low consumption and then high investment. It's the typical what you think of Asians here in America. We don't buy shit, we invest. We'll go 3 seasons with the same sweatshirt. You know what I mean? Before, or three winters with the same sweatshirt and jacket, so we can save up to go do an investment before we ever invest in ourselves. And that's what's happening in China. Is people's mentalities are invest first, consume later, and that is not allowing them to grow out. On top of that, there's always political uncertainty. Like we were talking before we jumped on, we had our pre-meeting, pod meeting, and there's cause for concern. Obviously, no one's forgotten about Hong Kong. Everyone understands the pressure China's putting on, Taiwan, and America has, even, Biden's backed off a little bit, but America has made China a enemy. Like we literally said, we don't want our companies investing there. We don't want any relationships to continue. We see them as an enemy now, right? All those factors play into it. And you were making a good point when I brought up Bubba. You were like, I don't think I would want to invest. You just don't trust China in general. And you were also saying about how India is more, the younger generations is more consumption. And I asked you, I was like, at what point does it become so attractive that you say, holy shit, you're getting Alibaba. It's literally like the warehouse of the world at currently is trading, overall the Chinese economy is trading 11 times earnings. You're literally going to buy that company and they have enough cash on hand to pay all their debt off and it's not going anywhere. And so you believe in Baba, but you don't believe in China. And it was just a very, I don't know. And I think a lot
I'll
of
give you
people
both sides. I'll give you
yeah.
the buy side and the not so buy side. Don't buy Baba because you don't trust China. You don't know what's going to happen with it. You don't really trust the government. They could come out there tomorrow and shut everything down. They're fucking crazy. Buy Baba because economy depends on it in China. A lot of production happens there. They would not do anything to Baba because they have to sell to the West in order to make the company survive, in order to make their country survive in a way. And one way they really get to sell to West is through Baba. So it's both sides. I guess you get to pick where you want to be. To answer your question, I think I said this earlier too, where it's like I'll be comfortable putting about 5% of my portfolio in Baba, just kind of taking a shot at it. And at the price you have it right now, from 300 to $60, it's at 1/5, bro. That's a huge discount.
You're saying you're echoing again on IG. I don't know what to do with that.
Okay, no, I just unmuted myself on IG just so I could talk, but I don't know if it's I don't know if they could hear me or not on IG.
I don't know. Hopefully they'll let us know in the comments again. Sorry,
All right,
sorry,
whatever.
we did
I'm
break it.
done talking anyway, so we're good.
Oh, okay, yeah. Can you
That's
wrap
all.
up
Yeah.
your last point because I got confused. I was reading a comment and I missed your last point there.
Yeah, it was basically buy Baba because it is at what 80% discount is trading from 300 down to 60. It's at 1/5 of the price. Can't beat it.
Yeah, and
I put a little bit into it.
no, 100%. Like, I mean, honestly, so one of the reasons why it popped is Jack Ma is the founder and CEO, the same Jack Ma that went disappeared on us from from the public eye when China,
Hmm.
started pulling on him for him ridiculing it. He came out and actually bought, I think, a couple $100 million worth of the stock that helped surge it. And what's been oh, he says
We can hear when he mutes, no echo. That's good.
okay. Just okay, I guess keep that mute then. Sorry. I mean, but one of the things we should definitely maybe we should just do an IG live. We could download it and then we could
No,
just
it's good. I know what's happening. It's because of your they can hear me through your speaker and your microphone. So I'll keep mine on mute and we should be good.
okay, cool. All right.
Yeah. But yeah, that was a scary moment when he went missing because that's some like he probably got picked up, got sat down in a warehouse, and said, "You're gonna do what we tell you to do,"
Yeah, no,
and
exactly.
that's what happened.
And look, I don't believe anything about China. Like when they put that pressure
No,
out that he bought 200 million worth of the stock, like how do we know that it wasn't the Chinese government saying, "Hey, come out and buy 200 million so we
hundred
can do a
percent,
press release to help push it up." Um,
it was.
it's I hope
But
this
one
doesn't.
thing you got to take into account, though, anybody when a guy sitting in Wisconsin wants to make a hoodie and sell it on TikTok or sell it on IG or whatever there may be, that has to come through Alibaba. 90% of the time, it's anything that goes on Shopify, anything that goes on your, TikTok shop, Instagram shop, any of that stuff has to come through Alibaba. So it's a buy in my opinion there, and Jack Ma is in line now, um, after whatever happened last time.
I think he definitely got checked. I don't think a lot of people realize that too, like how the whole drop shipping stuff works. But if you excuse me, if you haven't been on Alibaba, you definitely need to go take a look at it. It's literally the world's warehouse. But you know, yeah, at a certain point, it becomes like, damn, I got to throw some money at this. And just to have some context here, like I said, at the stock at its all time high was touching $300. It's now trading at 70. Um, that's a potential at least 4x that you can make on your cash. So it's very attractive, but it comes back down to how much trust do you have in the Chinese government? And to me, that's always been the problem. It's like I definitely think if China got out of its own way, if they, it's kind of weird, man, because like I will say this: I'm not communist. I'm not. I don't like dictators or anything, but everyone has to go through their own struggle as a country. And what stock are we talking about? We're talking about BABA, BABA. Having gone through that struggle, China did. I think they only got to where they got to because they had pretty much a dictatorship. Because it was no holds bar. Like, this is what we're going to do. Let's get us here. Sometimes that works in China's case. Sometimes it's horrible in North Korea's case. It just really depends on where it is. But I think where they are today, it's like I think the chink in the armor is starting to get destroyed. I feel like you can only go so far with having control. If the West starts shutting you off, and we really don't like the way you are doing things, and we start cutting that flow off, I don't know if they're going to be able to survive. I guess we're going to have to find out. But as far as investment goes, hey, we're here to make some money. So I'm not saying go ahead and go buy it. I'm not even saying go crazy with it. I definitely think that BABA is something to look at. JD.com is another good stock out there. That's something to look at. It's just very interesting to me because China's market on a whole, like I said, is trading at 11 times earning. I mean, freaking, they have enough cash on hand to pay their debt, and they're still going to make money. So it's like,
It's a strong company, no doubt about it. Good financials and great business model. Can't beat it. Have a little bit of exposure to it. It can't hurt you.
yeah, I definitely agree with that
That's
too.
my opinion.
I'm gonna be up front. I'm definitely looking at buying some long term options, and this is a great way to use options. If you buy a long dated call, it gives you the right, not the obligation, to buy. So instead of you going out and buying 100 shares of BABA today at $70 and throwing down 7 G's, you could go out from the summer of 2025 and buy the right to buy Baba at $70, put 1,500 down. Shit, if that thing goes back up to 200 and something dollars, you made a killing. If it goes wrong, you lost $1,500. It's a lot better than losing, half your money if the stock continues to go half. This is a perfect opportunity to buy some long dated Chinese stocks and let it ride. The two names I really like, I like JD and I like Alibaba. And it's crazy too because their 10-cent drop because they one of the Chinese officials proposed a limit on how much you could game and have restrictions, and that instantly made that stock drop too. That's the thing, man. With news, it just moves. It moves so fast, and that's the thing, right? Like the market is regardless of where you stand. Oh, the market's not efficient. The market, I believe it is. There's people that are a lot smarter than me and you and everybody in this chat or anyone that's listening right now, way smarter than us. This is all they do 24/7 is predict where they think the world is going to head, and they make bets today based on where they think the markets are going to head tomorrow. Because remember, markets are a future-looking indicator, not necessarily today. Sometimes they look a little too far into the future, but if the market is continuing to puke on China, it's just showing you that there's no confidence from anybody that China is going to correct its course. So you either believe that is the truth and that China is not going to be able to bounce back anytime soon or fast enough, or this is the time you say, I don't care what the market says. I'm going to go with my gut. Like we talked about, Baba's a good stock. It's worth a look at. So
what's also what you were saying earlier, I want you to go over that again. We were talking about what is China doing to make sure the markets bounce back, to make sure how they're reinvesting into the company. Yeah, that's the whole. Yeah, let's talk about that. That's what gives us the more confidence in buying Baba, for example, or JD, is because the government wants the market to pop back up.
Yeah, so China is now preparing to do its very first, government stimulus here. So essentially, they're using a lot of their shell corps that, like the subsidiaries they own across the world. They're bringing some of that money back home. The government's putting some of its own money back into its market. And this is the first time. I mean, they're taking a playbook out of America, and they're saying bailout, right? Bail out of the big markets, because I think they're smart enough to realize that if they don't protect their biggest players, that somebody else is going to fill that void. Because don't remember as much or don't forget, as strong as China is, as strong as we rely on their cheap goods, there's other countries all around them that are starting to take those resources away from them. A perfect example is Vietnam. Vietnam over the years, I mean, that's a player that's emerging on the market. There's a lot of Chinese businesses going over to Vietnam because they don't want the regulations in China. So at a certain point in time, China also has to realize, like, hey, we got to not be so aggressive on our own capitalist, populists that are there. Let's try to protect them in some type of way. Let them know we got their back, because you still kind of need them, right? Otherwise, you're going to turn into a North Korea where you're not, I'm not saying they're going to be North Korea overall. I'm just saying, like, the more restrictions you put on business people, the more they're going to say, screw this. I got other options. I could go somewhere else. I could literally move my factory to another country and still sell across the world and have way better terms than what you're giving me. So it's and that's another, investors are looking at that. They're saying, me as an investor, I can tell you, and I'm sure you would probably agree with this, if you were able to get everything China offers, but not have the government involved, you would love it. So why wouldn't you go ahead and invest in Vietnam instead of China? That's what people are doing. Yeah. The most interesting point that you made to me that I liked about this is the Chinese people are very low consumption and very high investment. That's one of their problems. But they're one of their border buddies there, India. You're saying the youth is total opposite. You want to touch on that a little bit, and we can talk about that project in Delhi that's going on.
Yeah. So two things there. I feel like China is set up that way because they are so cut off from the Western world. They don't understand consumption. Their youth doesn't really follow the trends. They aren't into the hyped up items. None of that stuff. Right now, from what I'm seeing, and I just looked this up, and I was reading about it in the news earlier. Mercedes thinks they're projecting to double their sales by 2030 in India. So in 7 years, they'll be doubling their sales. Last 5 years, their revenue has gone up by 68%. Starbucks right now owns and operates 390 stores.
Yeah.
In 2028, they have a projection to get 2,000 stores. So more than double their number within the next 5 years. And all this is happening because the youth wants to live in the moment. They want to spend. They're making good money and they're spending it. They're not like their parents or grandparents where they're not buying land, they're not buying homes. They just want to spend. Like the Western world, they have completely adapted to the kind of the American consumer mindset.
That's a very, it's crazy to me because geographically, they're very close to each other. They border each other, and it's like, and India does have its problems with restriction as far as speech goes. They definitely have their, they'll shut internet access off. They'll do some of the tricks that China does, but it's not to the level and to the extent that China is, right? But it's fascinating to me. At the end of the day, it's like it's kind of like a catch-22, right? You kind of have to let your people be a little bit free to be able to make choices to want to go consume. If you're so invasive in their lives and you're trying to tell them how to live and what to do and what kind of optionality, what kind of personalities do they really have? How can you have that mentality to become a consumption base? And I know other people are going to say, well, what are you talking about, man? America is all about brainwashing the youth and getting them to consume, right? But it's like, it's really not, because at the end of the day, it's like, in order for me to go out and buy an Apple product and to go buy something, you got to sell me on why it's cool and why I should do it and the benefits and everything of it. I don't think they do a good enough job of that in China. And part of the reason why is because the information is controlled, right? Like if you're not able to have that freedom of thought, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm completely wrong on this. And this I'm just thinking is like deeper level, like the psyche of the citizen is that of the country first, that of don't say anything wrong about the government, don't do anything that way. So you're already kind of like pre-programmed a certain way. How does that affect your psyche on being a consumer? You're more,
How do you even consume if you're not exposed to any of the stuff? That's my point. It's just China, they have blocked the Western media completely. Where if you don't know this hoodie is cool, I'll like take it for example, a fear of God, right? If you don't know what fear of God exists, if you don't understand what essential hoodie is, how are you going to consume it? How are you going to buy it? If you don't understand what sneakers are cool, if you don't know what Yeezys are, you're really not going to consume.
Yeah,
I'm into sneakers and that kind of stuff, but India is a blowing up market right now, man. People are buying stuff off of StockX over there. People are getting they're opening up showrooms all over the place where they're reselling sneakers, and that sort of stuff never used to exist.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy because like even that like in itself is it's a little bit of propaganda and pre-programming. But I don't know, man. It's like I don't know the answer to that. I can't tell you. I mean, I have my thoughts and my opinions of what it is, but I can tell you from an investment standpoint, just to wrap this segment up of it, investors are nervous at China, and it's very evident on where their economy is today and how it hasn't been able to bounce back in the face of turmoil. Because let's be honest, America's kind of in a turmoil spot, right? We're not looking so peachy, but yet our markets are continued to grow, and we still see investments happening. We still see
when you compare America to the rest of the world, when you compare America to China, when you compare America to Europe, we're looking pretty peachy, bro.
Yeah, and dude, and
The
that's
rest, I mean, we're screwed, but so is everybody else, and they're in a way worse position than we are.
Hey, we're gonna drag everybody down with us. It is funny. We joke about it, but it's the truth.
That's the reality, 100%.
When we fall, because if we go down this path, I promise you we're going to fall. And I'm not talking about Biden and the border. I'm literally talking about the freaking numbers of us continuing to rack up debt. And just to be clear, the national debt argument, you got to remember a lot of the national debt is unfunded liabilities. And so, the argument I've made is like, well, we could just say no Social Security, no Medicare. All of a sudden our debt goes down to 7 trillion. We get it cut into, we cut the fat or whatever. Yeah, good luck telling millions of Americans you're not going to get Social Security now, you're not going to get Medicare now, and let's see if you even have a country after that, because that's revolutionary, right? That's like, you owe me, So if we go down, the world goes down, and that's why I'm not really tripping. I'm like, enjoy the ride, what? Because what other country, would you say if America? God forbid, if America was to go down or go down a very bad path, where would you move to? Where would you go? There's nowhere else left for you to be like, I'm free to invest. I'm free to do whatever, right? I would rather go through a bad American cycle and stay in America than say, oh, I'm going to pack up and go somewhere else. I just don't know anywhere else that I would be comfortable investing in the long term. Just and a lot of it is just instability, right? There's if you think about it, and bureaucracy. As much as we like to complain about our government being slow, and we'll talk about the permit process and you getting sued coming up and like how that all works, but it's still a lot easier to get stuff done here than it would be in Europe or anywhere else, right?
Yep. All right.
So.
You want to jump on, get into the car wash? Give us an update.
Yeah, for sure. Let's we can talk a little bit about that. So so where are we in the process right now? So I guess I'll give you guys a highlight. I got to get better at making I really don't know what I'm going to do for content here. I was thinking about just waiting until, I don't know if anybody wants to see like, hey, I got my permits and this is what I did. I think they're more like, oh, let's break ground so I could show, the construction being done and what we're doing and why we're doing. I have no idea, but I guess I'll talk about it on the podcast. We could nerd out a little bit. So this week, we actually had a NS representative. NS is one of the 9 companies that does car wash equipment flying in. And one of them is a buddy of mine. The other is pretty high up in the company. And I asked him for a huge favor. I was like, bro, I need help with everything. It's a big project. We need to put it together. We need to put a timeline. And this is my first time I've done a car wash. So I know what I don't know. I'm smart enough to know that. So I don't know. We could answer those questions, I guess, when they come up if you want to note it. But so I said, okay, let's sit down. Let's go through it. So right now, currently, what I'm working on or worked on is one, the NS representative. He's literally, you know how you say people have a personality. This guy's name should be personality. This guy was just like he's a Korean guy. He was just like he was really cool, but he was really hard on us. He was like, you don't know what you're doing. Give me this. You're wrong. You're dumb. What are you doing? And I was just like, oh, shit. Okay. So I just sat there and he would just talk about his experience and then, but everything that he would say, why are we doing it this way? And it just made sense. And, there's a whole psychology to a car wash. And I never even thought about it because we had our vacuums laid out like this in an L shape. People coming out of the tunnel were like, oh, it'll be an open parking. He's like, no, you got to fucking guide these people. So we scrapped that. We redid the whole design. So now it's coming out like this, where it's a circular motion.
It's like driving through it, essentially.
Yeah. So you come out of the tunnel, you make a left, and there's going to be vacuums. And then you're going to come around, and there's going to be vacuums. And if there's no vacuums, you just loop again until you're ready to exit the lot. And if you come out of the tunnel and you're like, I don't want no vacuums, I want to get out, you just go straight and you're out. And I know that seems very simple now that it's done. But when I was sitting there looking at the 100 by 80 that we have, and I'm like, where the fuck am I going to put the vacuums, and why are we going to put it this way? It's a big mental challenge to make sure that you get that flow right, because you got to think about the old grandma, or the old lady that's coming in, or the old man that's coming in, or that young teenager that's coming in. Not just like an experienced driver. They want to be told exactly what to do and how to get out. If half your customer base is going to be lost in which way to go, you're going to have a hard time, one, getting them to come back to your lot, and two, selling them a subscription. Yep. And so that was like the last thing I thought of, and so that got done. And now the next step is, this whole project management side. It's going to be a lot of going back and forth. So one, we have a general contractor, so he's going to lay everything out. Now, once we get those CAD drawings, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, this plan is including this week. So we're trying to move fast, right? Like the thing is, and this in construction, time kills you. Time kills everything. If we can't get this project done right, as soon as we start drawing money from the loan, we're going to be losing money because everything's done until the construction's in. We got a $24,000 payment and we got to pay that. That's per month, regardless of the fact that the project's done. So if we don't get this project done in 4 months, 4 months is 100 racks gone. If this thing stretches out 6 months, we lose an extra 50,000. That hurts our end return all the way around, right? So, that's another thing I asked his help. I was like, what do we do to make this as smooth as possible? Because really the model I'm trying to figure out right now, our model for the future is go across the country. And remember, we talked about this off camera. We hopped on a call. I was like, go across the country, find these older washes that have the volume, but the owner is just ready to give up or done and retire. if we want to pick it up, we got to know exactly what we're going to do and how fast we could turn it around so our model works.
Yeah.
So
So
once
I
we get,
saw your story today, and I was under the impression that this is just all of them are just bays you drive in, put the quarters in, and watch it yourself. But it looked like there was an automated, one of the bays had like that automated drive-through. I don't know if I'm using the right terminology.
no, you're right. It's a tunnel. So, and maybe I'll make a video about this tomorrow. Maybe you give me a little inspiration to go live
There you go.
tomorrow and post. But essentially, we have four in bay, not in bay. We have four self serves, and it comes with a 100-foot tunnel, and then there was a dirt lot. So our project is now we decided to tear down two of those bays. Why? Because this is a number that nobody would tell you. Nobody would tell you the real numbers on a self serve because it's kind of like a hidden secret. It's a hush hush, right? Like if you're not in the industry, you really don't know what these things make. So he told me, he's like, hey, listen, if you have a really good average, right? If you have a really good in bay automatic, or and I always get not an in bay, a self serve, with a stick and you got the little
Self-serve.
water gun and
Yeah.
the self serve, you should be doing about 30,000 top line. And if you're working it yourself, you'll make above 50% of that in profit. Working it yourself means you're the one going out and grabbing the quarters. You're the one, changing the chemicals, repairing it, doing all the after tax depreciation, everything. You'll make well above 50%. He's like, if you are relying on employees and maintenance calls and everything, you'll be lucky to make, 25 to 30. So he's like, you got two of these bays you're going to knock down. Sure. That's going to be $60,000 in top line. And let's say you're at 30%. Let's say you kill it. What is that? What's 30% of 60? Like 18 racks. He's like,
yeah.
if you knock these two down, you'll have street visibility and you'll have a bigger line that you can put into your tunnel. And you're going to make 5 times that money doing it this way. And I was like, oh shit. Because me and my partner were like, oh, we got to keep the self-serve. He's like, no, we'll keep the other half. Let's knock this half down. And that was that was a huge topic. And I was like, you got to convince me as to why we're going to do this, because, and anyone that doesn't know this, when you get into construction, the city is okay with you tearing shit down. It's a bitch to get things back up. You know what I mean? Like, it's damn near impossible. They make it a lot harder, especially, because once you start tearing down, they want everything built to the newest, nicest standard versus just renovating, right? That's why you make so much money on flips, is because you're not paying for the permits. You're not paying for the foundation. You're not paying for all these things because it's already done. You're just fixing the things that need to be done. So if you're tearing anything down, and God forbid you get it wrong and you want to build it back, good luck. It's going to cost you double. So to recap, we got the flow down. We're taking down 2 of those self-serve bays, and then we got the tunnel. So, our goal right now is get the CAD drawings and get it over to NS Car Wash. Then their architects and engineers are going to plot in where all the new equipment is going. And then we go and get it stamped, go back to our GC, get it stamped, get it turned into the city. Hopefully the city approves the plan. We get the permits, then we can break ground. And the total cost of the project all in is going to be about $3 million with cash and debt and cash on hand that we'll have left over. So this is a big swing.
What part of that is construction?
1.8 million is construction.
Wow.
And we're going to have to pay 10% of that. We're going to have to pay 180 down. So if you want to look at that as just purely how much is this total renovation costing us without us, our down payment, 1.8 million. So we purchased the price for 1.2 and we're putting 1.8 million in total renovations in. And the biggest expense is, believe it or not, this is going to blow a lot of people's minds here. Out of that $1.8 million, more than 1.5 million of it is just the equipment and the installation of the equipment. Like, though, for example, we're putting in, and I nerded out, man. It's in Texas. It's in Texas. When I got with my representative, I've probably spent like close to 40 hours with him before he even flew out here. And you were like, 40 hours for what? Literally every night for 4 nights in a row, starting from like 3 p.m. until like midnight, midnight, 1 o'clock, I would just tell him, he gave me the quote sheet, right? Like, and then the quote sheet had like literally like, I think like 60 different pieces of equipment. And I said, I want you to talk to me like I'm freaking four and I know absolutely nothing about anything. Like literally, I mean, even if I knew shit, I say what, like, it said like the chain link like on the conveyor. I was like, what does that do? How fast, all like I'm just trying to be a sponge, right? Like I'm learning the different speeds that the car wash needs to go at, like how fast you could go, how much chemicals are going to drop when you put speed up or down. And then I told them every single little thing that the car touches. What is it? Why is it there? What's it doing? Why do we need it? And he's great. He explained every single little thing to us, and then we built our wash. And so, what does that mean? Like, what does it mean to build your wash? It means we sat down, we looked at all the equipment that they had available, and then we sat with their engineers and we said, okay, we're in this town, we're in this city. Okay. Then they said, give us 2 to 3 days. We'll come back with a data report on the type of rain that you're going to have, the type of dirt you have, the type of bugs you have. And we're going to tell you what chemicals need to drop on the car. And then they told us, these are the equipment that you need. And this is when the chemical needs to drop. And when this chemical drops, this is the equipment that needs to hit it. It needs to hit it in this way to rub off. And then you need to put this water on it. And then you need to put this chemical on it. And that's how you're going to get the best wash. So I was like, holy shit. The whole time I was thinking, for a car wash, I was thinking, all the car wash is, it's the same equipment all around and everyone just drops some type of soap on it and you're good. But then when you start getting into the nitty gritty of things and you're like, oh shit, this is really comes down to the area you're in, where you're building it. And, and also the type of cars you're going to have, right? If we're going to have more than, like in our area, more than 60% of the cars, and we know the stat because the car wash has been running and we know, if it's a big pickup truck or small pickup truck, because we just documented it, more than 60% of the cars coming into our tunnel in our area are pickup trucks and big rigs. Another reason why we went with NS versus going with a bunch of the other operators, NS is the only one that makes a 97-foot tunnel equipment. Everybody else goes down to like 95, 90, and that makes a difference when you have a van, when you have a pickup truck, when you have a little small lift, you're in Texas, right? And not just that, but NS is also, and this is like, and once you start getting into the business more and more, you're like, oh shit, there's so many different avenues than just the car wash. Because we're like, we had long conversations about truck washes and making them automatic, like big rig truck washes. But NS Corporation has now blown up on the scene. They are the biggest company that cleans city fleets. So Dallas Fort Worth Airport here, they clean all of their buses and their trans. So they literally went in and they installed all the equipment for that to be done. And then they said, hey, here's a whole other business that you could have. You could go to smaller towns that are pocketed and you could build a industrial wash, and you could go to the city and say, we'll wash all your buses, all your school buses, all your public transit buses, all your dumpsters. We'll give you a package for that. And then you could go around and say, okay, if Amazon warehouse is near, if UPS is near, you could go to them and say FedEx is near, and trucking companies are near. Well, and I was like, holy shit, I never even thought of that. I was like, and those are even more profitable than the regular car wash is going to be. Because if you can get if a city has, let's say if you get a decent sized city that has about 100 buses for school buses and public transit, and you say, hey, it's going to be $100 package per bus. I mean, do the math on that. That's just one client that you have. That's the city. That's not even including the county if you're getting into a real rural area. That's guaranteed to hit your bank account every month, no matter what. And I was like, oh my God. And then I was like, wait a minute. What if we got smart and we started doing this in industrial parks, right? What if we went to a city, we looked at where their industrial park is or where their industrial park layout is, and we realized like, hey, wait a minute. Nobody is doing these bigger truck washes. So why don't we come in? And I was like, well, what's the cost on these things? And then I realized like, oh, wait a minute. You don't need to even make this into brick and need to do all that. And the actual city itself is a lot more lenient because you don't have the noise, you don't have the restriction. You could just put up some tins and you can put the equipment inside. And it's way smoother because now you don't need to put LED lights up. You don't need to worry about anything. You're just pushing cars or you're pushing trucks through. And so, and that's what I'm loving about this process is like, there's actually a car wash convention here in Dallas Fort Worth at the end of February. If anyone wants to go, you guys can. It's public. I'm going, and I just want to learn more, man. I want to learn as much as I can because I want to be able to make the best decision, for our limited partners, and obviously for myself too. I want to be able to deliver the best return. And yeah, and I'm sorry, I just went on a little rant.
Three things.
Yeah.
We got two questions. One of them is it your first project? I'm going to answer that. Yes, it is the first car wash project. Number two question was, what's the minimum square footage for something like this?
So that's a very good question. There's no such thing as like a minimum square footage, right? Like, and this is something that I learned now.
How big is the one that you're doing right now? What's the square footage on that?
Well, the square footage on the tunnel is it's a 100-foot tunnel. The lot is 0.8 acres, and I think 0.8 acres is like the perfect fit. But and this is where, like I said, the guy Bill, that he just this guy's been in the game for 30 years. We're using city water. It's city water, but we also have a recapture system. And that's some of the stuff I can talk about too. Once the equipment starts getting installed, I can tell you guys like what's what. That recapture system's awesome, man. Like, you literally recapture the water that's going into the tunnel. It goes back out to the filter, and it goes back out to the front when you hit it, and you literally cut your water bill in half. Freaking crazy good.
Are you recycling water? Yes.
Yeah. So you do okay. So if you have a really smart car wash, when you first get into the car wash, you're going to be hit with recycled water because it just needs water, soap, and it needs to be broken up. When you get halfway through the car wash and you've gone through the first round, before you go into the polish, that's when you're going to get clean water, because obviously you need spring water to get all the dirt off and get rubbed off before you get hit with the polishes. You can't just use dirty water all the way through. It has to be a mix. But that's what allows the recapture also to reflow, because it continues to get a little bit of the dirty, or it gets half the dirty water and half the clean water, recycles and goes. So instead of using 100, you're using like 70% of actual city water. So that 30% makes a big difference. Because you're wasting,
Yeah, when you're talking about hundreds of thousands of gallons, it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely.
100%.
I lost my train of thought on this. Oh, the actual, you said what size is the right size?
Yeah.
For me, we're trying to determine if we want to franchise this thing. And so Bill, the guy that came down, he was like, no, every wash is different. Every site is different. And I was like, no, I totally understand that. But I want to take the McDonald's approach where I want to have my footprint, my thing ready. And I'm just going to find a site that I could, put in with my model. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if you're a young entrepreneur and you're out there and you're like, man, I want to get into the car wash game. I got this lot. It's a half acre. It's a quarter acre. It's whatever. Can I do something? You can, but it's a challenge. And the challenge is half of it is learning all this education and learning what the hell you're doing and what machines you need to be able to deliver a good wash. Right. But another part of it is like, what is your objective? And at the end of the day, you want to be able to get good return on your capital. Right. So you want to be able to build it big enough that you're actually going to be able to deliver a decent wash, and also enough that you're going to be able to get, return on it. So to be fair, I don't think I would ever, knowing what I know right now, I would never build a tunnel that's under 60 foot. I think the
length of the tunnel.
Yeah. The length of the tunnel being 60 foot. I think that's the absolute bare minimum you could do. And you would still be able to do a great wash. And there's some advantages there, because if you do a 60-foot tunnel, you're probably not going to pay, $5 million. You're probably going to pay in the low twos, probably like 1.8 to 2, depending on the land. But the problem with
what changes from a 60-foot tunnel to a 100-foot tunnel? I understand it's a distance. Now, can I just make that car go slower through that tunnel and then still hit it with the same amount of soap and the wax and whatever else goes on the car?
Absolutely, but the problem is 2 is going to be your sheer volume that you're going to be able to do. Right? Because if you're putting a 60-foot tunnel, it means your lot's not that big. So if you're busy, but you can't get enough like, let's say a lot of people want to go, but your lot only allows like 7 or 8 cars to get stacked, and you can only do, 7 cars, and for 3 minutes. In 21 minutes, you're washing 7 cars. So what are you doing in an hour? You're doing 7, 14, 21 cars. Maybe you speed it up. Maybe you could crank out about 40 cars an hour. Versus my tunnel, I have it minimum set at 100 cars an hour. So I'm already doing 2.5 times the sheer numbers that you're doing, right? Sure. That's one difference. The second difference is sure, We have a smaller tunnel. It's not that you can't get a clean wash. You'd have to work a little bit harder. You would have to go a little bit slower. That's beautifully said. But at the end of the day, in order for you to have a good wash, you need touch, right? Like you literally need, the chemicals are one thing. The chemicals don't just do everything works together, right? You have to have the right chemical, like we talked
Yeah.
about in your area. Does your area have more bugs? Does your area have more dirt? Like, are you by the sea? Do you have more salt? Are you in the Midwest where you have salt coming up from the freeways and you need that type of chemical? The chemicals are important, but also what's important, once the chemicals are there, you need to have the right things touching all parts of the car, rubbing that chemical in, and then also being able to, take the chemicals off and then dry it, right? So there's like a 3-part to it. So there are models of great. So there's one thing that he told me to. I will be taking a trip to Vegas this year, not just to see my Raiders and gamble, but there's a car wash in Vegas that is 100% autonomous. It's a tunnel. They have no employees. It's an express wash, and it's kicking ass. And I want to go down there after we build ours and learn and see, can we copy that? Is that a copy and paste, or is it a one-off unique situation? And guess what? That tunnel is not. I think that tunnel is like 70 or 80 feet. It's not 100 feet. So I'm not saying I have the. I'm not saying I like a 100-foot tunnel because I know the equipment I could put in. You're going to get a great wash. And I know that I'm going to be able to do the volume, right? Because that's what I want. I want to be able to hit the higher metrics. But you might make a better return percentage-wise by having a smaller lot, spending half the money I'm going to spend, but focusing on your memberships and focusing on marketing, because not everybody's going to come and wash your car at once, right? So there's a lot of factors there. So
I think you got to connect with this guy. He said he knows a lot about car washes.
oh yeah, cool. Shoot me a DM. Well, I'm always wanting to learn. So
Cool, man.
but
All right, you want to get into the last part of it?
yeah, what's the last part? Is it your lawsuit or what are we
Yes,
talking
sir. I want to talk about my lawsuit.
about? All right,
So
all
we
right.
didn't even make it on. All right, dude. So we buy this house. So for those of you who don't know me, I do single family fix and flip. We bought a house in Menlo Park, California. We buy it at 1.7 million in April of last year, 2023.
Okay.
The property to us is marketed at 1590 square feet. It's on the MLS at 1590. Tax record shows it's 1590. We're like, great. So I go talk to my hard money guy. They send an appraiser out there. The appraiser goes in, he appraises it, he figures it out he figures out square footage is like 1700 and some change. Okay. Anyways, we spent about 4 months in there. We completely redo the house. We put it back on the market.
Tell me. Everything's listed at 1590. You're all good at 1590. You guys close the deal. Now it becomes yours. The appraiser and you had information that it was 17, whatever, but the deal's done, right? The deal's done. It's closed, legally closed.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Continue from there.
So we spent about 4 months and over $200,000 fixing it up. Basically took the whole thing down to studs, new roof, new floors, the whole 9 yards. Go back and list it back on the market because I've done over a dozen of these at this point, and we always go based on the tax record. Whatever it says on the tax record, that's the square footage. So we put it back on the market at 2.3, and it's still listed at 1590 as a square footage. We're like, great. We get an offer about a week in. We get an offer at 2.5. We're over the moon with this, and they go in. They get their appraiser in there, or the lender gets their appraiser in there, who goes in and he says the property is 1,300 and some change in square feet. So so at that point, a day before we were supposed to close, they end up canceling the contract. They had $75,000 in earnest money, and we basically go back and forth about it. And long story short, we end up suing each other. They're suing us, saying, "Hey, you owe us the 75 grand." We sue them, saying that you owe us 75 grand because you backed out of it. Property sits through it. This is end of October now. Property sits through Halloween, Thanksgiving, and just kind of goes stale because that time market is a horrible time in market to buy a single family house because everybody's out on vacation, your kids are off, nobody's thinking about buying a home. The schools have already started. So, anyways, we ended up taking a hit on the property. We sold it from the offer that was at 2.5. We ended up selling it for 2.25. So we take a $250,000 hit. Um, Now today we went through a mediation. So the way I found out today, if you're ever suing somebody for earnest money, if there's a dispute on it, the title company holds on to it. You have to go through essentially the third step is going into court. First step is mediation, where you go get an attorney, they get their attorney, and then you've got like a retired attorney or a judge who's going to be a mediator. If you can't sort things out there, then you go through arbitration. So we had our mediation done today. We walked in, and it was my first time ever going through it. It was nerve wracking. And we walked in there thinking, all right, we're just going to, my worst case scenario was we're going to split it 50-50. My lawyer was way more confident that we were going to be able to get more of it just because of the way disclosures were done and everything else was done through this. We go there, the mediator talks to us, here's our side of the story, goes to group B or the buyers, and here's their part of the story, comes back to me and goes, yeah, man, they straight up told him we were in the right and we want all of our money. And of course, we were asking for all of their money as well. So we go back and forth, and I say, okay, you know what? Let's just get the deal done. I came in here to get the deal done, and they said no, we want all of it. So my lawyer goes to the mediator. You understand, if we go to arbitration, it's going to cost us upwards of $200,000 for both parties to go through that because it's a 2-day process for a retired judge who charges $1,000 an hour, and another day for the retired judge to give you a judgment. So that's 24 grand right there. And then you got two of the attorneys involved, and then they have to send depositions out to my realtor, his broker, their realtor, their broker, me, and the lady that was hosting the open house. That's the whole story because she had told them the square footage was something else. Anyways, we go back and forth, and anyways, I offer him 15 grand, they offer me 15 grand, and towards the end, he was like, "Okay." I was like, he said, "I want north of 50%. I want more than 50%." So I offered him $1 more than 50%. I figured out exactly where 50% was gonna be, and I offered him $1 more. And the mediator just he goes, "Look, this is what they're willing to do." So we ended up coming about $10,000 short of the 50%, but got the deal done. And that guy was so stubborn. He told the mediator, I've got over $2 million in my bank account. I really don't care if this is going to cost me $200,000 to get the 75, but I'm willing to do it. I was like, dude, this guy is crazy. I'm not willing to spend $200,000 to go get 75. So I'll take that L. So I took an L today.
I think he was bluffing, bro. It's funny when egos get involved, bro. It's like at that time. Question for you though: why didn't you just tell him from the beginning, like, "Hey, I'll just give you half your earnest money back"? Because you were like,
We did.
I know you lost $250,000 because at that time he kind of screwed you because he said he was going to
Yeah.
buy it and whatever. But just to be like, "Hey, we're good," well, um, you're like, okay, I'll just to split it off and be able to move on faster, or were you just like, bro, you cost me $250,000, like the 75K doesn't even make up for it?
That was my argument.
So what's the
That was
biggest
my
lesson
argument.
you? So what's the biggest lesson you think you learned from this? Like, would like as far as the square footage disclosures and stuff, like what, like, is there anything that you're going to do differently going forward? Like when you do your next flip, or
Not really. I've done so many of them that I haven't had an issue. This time where we screwed up though, it was two things that we screwed up on. One of them, my realtor told them that the garage was permitted and the square footage was included, but we didn't check that with the city beforehand. Okay,
so
so the square footage discrepancy is really there because of the garage. So these people that we bought the house from had taken out the garage door, put up a siding, put up the wall there, and kind of turned it into a living room
mm,
or like a family space. We went in there, we said, okay, let's give whoever the potential buyer is going to be, let's give it an option to have it as a garage. So we took that wall out and put up a garage door there. So that now turned into a garage. So when my appraiser went out there, he counted that as a living space. When their appraiser went out there, he counted it as a garage, and garage doesn't count as a living square footage.
oh my god, but like that's so weird because
Yeah.
square footage should still be square footage because doesn't like would it like why would they
And the
differ?
fucked up thing is, their appraisal, even though it came about 400 square feet short, it still came at the price they had offered.
So
And so where they got us was we had they had signed all the disclosures that said buyer to do their own due diligence, but my realtor failed to give them the appraisal that we had done from our lender. Apparently, we were supposed to give them that. I had no idea about that, but we were supposed to give them that appraisal.
why?
And
That has
number,
nothing to do with it.
it's California, dude. We had to give them that, and we also had to give them disclosures from the previous buyers. And my realtor didn't give them that either. So it was those two things. And then even my attorney and my mediator both had said the same thing about it. They're like, look, you can go in front of a judge, you can go in front of a arbitrator, and it could go either way. But the chances are they'll lean more towards these first time immigrant home buyers who are gonna they were playing the victims, saying, we had no idea. We just signed where a realtor told us to sign, and we thought it was this much square footage because we looked at this number.
Wow, dude. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, if they really wanted to, buy the property, why? Like, I wouldn't, why would you want to back out if you were happy? It just doesn't make any
I
sense to
think
me.
they got cold feet. That's all it is. I think it was a perfect case of cold feet, and they just wanted an excuse to get out of it.
Yeah, and that's so crazy that they fought for that. I mean, at least I would have been like, give me back at least 50%. Like, I don't know. Interesting, very interesting. So that's not
That's
too
what we're
bad.
going back and forth with. But yeah, that was my story. It's not horrible,
So how much out of
but
the 75, how much did you end up actually losing? Because how much was the lawyer fees, and how much did you like? It wasn't all of it, right? Like you got something back,
no, no,
right?
no. Of course, yeah. So I walked in there thinking I would be happy walking away with 37.5 because it was 75,000. In the end, we ended up walking out with 27 and some change.
After lawyer fees
It was
too.
so the lawyer fees are about 3 grand. So no, about 24.
Not bad, not bad. I mean, it still sucks you
Not
missed
bad.
out on
Yeah.
a quarter of a
hmm
million dollars
I'm
though.
more
So
bad about that, dude, because when we
yeah,
had this offer at 2.5, we had another offer at 2.425.
yeah.
And
You guys
this
got
again, of
greedy.
course, which one would you have taken?
I honestly, it's funny because there's a Instagram, X account that I follow that real estate Trent, and he talks about this. Like, what would you do? Would you take that one? I would say who would have the bigger ability to close?
So these
You know,
guys had $1.9 million cash that
yeah,
they were putting down. They were financing 600,000.
yeah.
They had a letter of pre-approval with them. The other party was putting down, I think, 25%, and the rest was loan. And of course, this was a bigger number, bigger down payment. It just kind of made sense, man. It just kind of made sense at the time.
Damn, dude, 1.9 million in cash. What the fuck do they do for a living? And
Uh,
they're immigrant first time home buyers.
Korean immigrants, first-time home buyers, both husband and wife are in tech, and they had some stock options. And they
Oh
live
my.
in San Francisco in one of the high-rise buildings, and they were
Oh,
buying a house in a 1,500 square feet house in Menlo Park for 2.5 million.
I mean, I don't know that. I mean, we talked about that area. I know you love that area,
That's
but
pretty
like
much the average.
that's
Yes,
yeah, it's average, right? Like, I mean, both the appraisals came in, and
that's the entry level house.
fucking. You know what you can buy with 2.5 million over in Dallas, baby? You be living like a king out here with 2.5 million.
Dude, you could have a mansion and a couple cars.
I definitely do. That's insane, dude. But I mean, I'm glad you. I mean, I hope to God I
I'm
never.
just glad it's over. I'm
Yeah,
glad it's over, and I wouldn't go through it again ever. I think my biggest lesson was to really double check the square footage because it's setting a foot in that house, I knew it didn't feel like fucking 1590 because it was 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom, and it wasn't like big bathrooms by any means. It didn't feel like it. We just went off of the tax record.
yeah. And I mean, if anything, I guess you would probably have you could even have a bone to pick with the guy that you bought it from or the party that you bought it from because it's like what's you know what I mean. But then it's that's the one thing that I would say about America is like I get really annoyed by the sue happy the culture we have. I get it. You need it for laws and regulations, but it gets absolutely insane when, this $75,000 dispute could almost cost you, $200,000. Like
When
that
you're
doesn't
dealing with
even,
somebody who's willing to spend that kind of money, and the mediator came back to me and said, "Look, they told me this is the number they want to go with. If I go back to them with anything else other than a yes, they are going to leave this Zoom call and they are going to arbitration. And I genuinely believe this guy because he's just so furiated. And I said, you know what? Let him have it. At this point, it
that's
wasn't worth it.
That's crazy. Anyways,
All right, dude,
yeah.
you gotta talk to this Kate Bauman. They're apparently a politician. They know a lot about car washes. I have no idea.
That
All
sounds
right,
like
all right. You ready to call it a night?
Yeah, we call it, man. This is a good pod. I mean, I definitely want to for next week. I mean, I don't know if I'll have time to research, but I definitely want to look more into China, man. I feel like they're
I'll look into it as well, and I'll share some articles with you. We could talk
all
about it.
right, cool, man. Good
All right, brother.
wrapping up here, brother. All right, bro.
Likewise. All right.